They didn't come to visit me. They came to take my house. My own parents signed it away. My sister helped plan it. And her husband was ready to sell my life for cash. All while smiling across my dinner table. But what they didn't know was this. They walked into my home. And into their own trap. Hello my beautiful family. Welcome back to Tales by Lope, the home of stories that expose betrayal, reveal the truth, and celebrate the quiet power of women who refuse to be erased. Before we begin, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the story you're about to hear is one that will stay with you long after the last word. This is the story of a woman who survived divorce, built her dream home from nothing, only to discover that the people she trusted most were secretly plotting to steal it, a sister who smiled while lying, parents who signed behind her back, and a husband who turned love into a weapon. This is a story about greed disguised as family, and what happens when a woman finally says, no more. Let me take you inside the night they showed up uninvited, and everything began to fall apart. Let's begin. My name is Naomi Rivers. I am 51 years old, and I live alone in a 3-story oceanfront home perched on the cliffs of Seabright Cove, Georgia. I bought this house outright after my divorce because I wanted something no one could ever take from me again. On that Friday evening, I was doing exactly what I usually did, eating dinner alone, listening to the waves hit the rocks below my balcony, enjoying the silence that had become my safest place. Then the doorbell rang. Not a polite ring. A long, confident press. When I opened the door, my stomach dropped. Standing there were my parents, my younger sister Brielle, her husband Landon, and 3 massive rolling suitcases already halfway over the threshold. No phone call. No warning. No respect. Landon rolled the luggage inside like he was checking into a resort. Brielle kicked off her heels and said, "Phew, long drive." My mother walked straight into the kitchen. My father sighed in relief like he'd just arrived home. No one asked if they could stay. They had already decided. By the time I closed the door behind them, they were already spreading out. Landon parked the suitcases at the foot of the staircase. Brielle dropped her designer travel bag onto my entryway bench. Halfway through dinner, she glanced up at me like she was talking to hired help. "Tomorrow morning, I need breakfast ready at 5:45 sharp," she said. Landon gets up early for his workouts. He hates waiting. She smiled. "You're the homeowner, Naomi. That's your job, right?" My parents nodded approvingly. Something inside my jaw tightened so hard it hurt. But I smiled. "Of course," I said softly. Then I stood up and walked into my kitchen. I stared at the clock on the wall. 5:45 a.m. I quietly set my alarm for 4:15. And then I ordered something online that would be delivered before sunrise. They wanted breakfast. They were going to get something much more memorable. Brielle didn't wait for permission. She pointed upstairs. "We'll take the master suite on the east side. Landon likes to wake up with the sun." My parents rolled their bags behind her. My dad gave me a half hug. "We'll use the guest room like last time." Last time. The visit where they complained non-stop and left my fridge empty. At the dining table, Landon slid into the chair at the head, my seat, and poured himself a glass of my expensive wine. He swelled it. "You know this coastline is worth over $9 million now," he said casually. "Oceanfront. Paid off. No liens. That's rare." My mother beamed like he'd said something noble. Brielle leaned into him. "We were thinking, Naomi, you don't even use half this house. Why not sell off the back parcel and let Landon manage it?" My father nodded eagerly. "Social Security barely covers our house in Northridge, Ohio anymore." They weren't visiting. They were negotiating. "You want to sell my land?" I asked. "Strategically monetize it," Landon corrected smoothly. "You keep the house. We split the profit." Brielle squeezed my hand. "Family helps family." I remembered every wire transfer. Every bill I'd paid for them. None of it mattered. "I'll think about it," I said. They smiled like it was already done. And that was when I knew. They didn't come to visit. They came to take. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while the ocean whispered outside, my thoughts circling the way my family had walked into my home like it was already theirs. By the time my alarm chimed at 4:15 a.m., my heart was already pounding. I slipped into my robe and moved quietly downstairs. The house was still dark, just the soft blue glow from the shoreline filtering through the windows. If they wanted a perfect breakfast, I would give them one. I pulled fresh brioche from the bakery bag and sliced it thick. I cracked eggs into simmering water, timing them carefully. I arranged berries and citrus on white porcelain plates. I pressed oranges by hand until my palms ached. I ground imported Brazilian coffee beans until the ice smelled rich and warm. Then I opened the small package that had arrived the night before. Ultra-strength herbal cleansing tea. The warning label was printed in tiny red letters. Use 1 sachet per day only. I dropped 5 into my largest teapot. The liquid turned dark, almost black. By 5:40, the table looked like a 5-star resort. Napkins folded, silverware polished, the teapot resting quietly beside the coffee. At 5:45, footsteps thundered down the stairs. Landon came first, hair still damp from the shower. Brielle followed in silk pajamas. My parents shuffled behind them. Landon clapped once. Now that's how hospitality is done. Brielle poured herself a mug of the dark tea without asking. This tastes healthy. My mother and father poured cups too. My dad laughed. At my age, anything that helps digestion is a blessing. I stood by the counter, watching. They drank it all. Landon went back for more. Brielle said she felt energized. My parents finished the pot. 30 minutes later, Landon let out a low groan. He stood suddenly and ran for the bathroom. Brielle laughed, until her own face went pale and she bolted upstairs. My mother clutched the table. I don't feel right. My father tried to stand and nearly collapsed. I dialed emergency services with a calm voice. Within minutes, flashing lights filled my driveway. They were rushed out on stretchers. And suddenly, my house was quiet. For the first time all weekend, I could breathe. But that silence was about to be broken by a truth that would change everything. The house was too quiet after the ambulances pulled away. No footsteps, no voices, no one calling my name. Just the low hum of the air conditioner and the distant roar of the Atlantic beyond the cliffs. I stood in the kitchen staring at the breakfast table, plates half full, cups still steaming, crumbs scattered like nothing terrible had just happened. My hands were still shaking. I finally forced myself to move. Landon and Brielle had claimed the East Wing master suite like royalty. Their luggage was still sitting at the foot of the bed, one suitcase wide open where Landon had thrown his clothes in a hurry. I wasn't snooping. I was surviving. I knelt beside the bag and pushed aside a stack of pressed polo shirts. That was when I saw it. A thick manila folder. My name was written across the tab in block letters. N. Rivers, Seabright Cove. My breath caught. Inside were photographs. Hundreds of them. My house from the water. From the dunes. From the street. From behind the palm trees. Some taken at night. The earliest date was nearly 20 months earlier. He had been watching me long before he ever married my sister. The next stack of papers made my stomach turn. A notarized power of attorney. My parents' signatures were at the bottom. They had legally given Landon permission to list and sell my home. Without telling me. There was paperwork for a shell company. Atlantic Crest Property Group LLC. Landon Pierce, managing director. Then a spreadsheet. 25 names. All elderly homeowners. A column labeled status. Most were marked closed. My name was typed into the next line. Pending. I sank onto the bed. This wasn't a plan. This was a system. Tucked in the back was a business card. Tara Green, Savannah, Georgia. I called. She answered on the second ring. You found his folder, didn't you? She said quietly. And in 20 minutes, I learned the truth. Landon had done this before. Over and over. He preyed on women with property. He ruined them. And now my family had helped him come for me. The sun was already sinking when the doorbell rang again. I was still sitting at my kitchen island with Tara Green's voice echoing in my ears, the story of how Landon had convinced her to refinance her paid-off home, taken the money, and disappeared the same day the check cleared. When I opened the door, my older brother Donnell Rivers stood there in his dusty work boots, eyes blazing. Mom had gotten to him. She says you poisoned everyone, he said. Dad's in a hospital bed. Brielle's screaming. Landon's threatening to sue. I didn't argue. I just said, sit. I opened my laptop. Photo after photo of my house filled the screen. Donnell's jaw tightened. then the power of a tiny, my parents' signatures, then text messages between Landon and my mother arranging the sale, then her recorded voice. She won't even notice until it's done. Donnell whispered, "This is a felony." We called the sheriff. Deputies arrived quietly. Every camera in my house was activated. We waited. At 2:13 a.m., the back door feed flickered. A shadow slipped inside. Landon. He moved like he knew the house by heart. Straight to my office. Straight to the hidden safe. That's when the closet door opened. Police. Hands where I can see them. 4 red laser dots landed on his chest. He froze. His bag held a gun, fake IDs, burner phones, and a flash drive labeled master list. They cuffed him. And the man who tried to steal my life finally walked out in chains. The front door opened just after 9:30 that morning. I heard it before I saw them, the soft scrape of shoes against tile, the slow, hesitant way people move when they know something is waiting for them that they don't want to face. My mother came in first. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Her coat was wrinkled, her hair still pulled back from the hospital, her purse clutched tight against her chest like it might keep her from falling apart. My father followed, eyes fixed on the floor. Brielle came last. Her face was blotchy and red, makeup streaked, fury barely held in place. They stopped when they saw me and Donnell sitting at the kitchen island. The locksmith's van was parked in the driveway, clearly visible through the glass. Mom swallowed hard. "Naomi, we need to talk." Dad nodded. "This has gone too far. Landon is in jail over a terrible misunderstanding. You have to fix this." Brielle crossed her arms. "You owe us. Hospital bills. Lawyers. You need to call the police and tell them you lied." I didn't move. I slid my phone across the counter and tapped the screen. My mother's voice filled the kitchen. She won't even notice until it's done. Then Landon's texts appeared on the screen. "Have them sign pages 4 and 5. She trusts you. Once it closes, we split it." Mom's face drained of color. Dad gripped the back of a chair. Brielle's mouth opened, then closed. I let the silence stretch until it became unbearable. Mom whispered, "We were scared. The house in Ohio is underwater. Credit cards. Medical bills. We thought this would save us." Dad added softly, "We never thought you'd find out until it was already done." Brielle exploded. "You're choosing strangers over your own family." I stood. "I wired you over $400,000 over 10 years. I paid for your wedding, your car, your treatments, your surgeries, your vacations. And you still tried to take my home." Mom reached for me. I stepped back. I called the locksmith. "Start now." Metal clicked. New locks slid into place. Keys changed hands. Brielle lunged forward, screaming. Donnell stepped between us without saying a word. I looked at all of them. "You signed my home away. You taught me what family really means." Their bags were placed in the foyer. An Uber waited. "One-way tickets," I said. "After today, you're on your own." When the last deadbolt locked, the house finally went quiet. Not empty. Peaceful. 6 months later, my home looks different. New furniture. Open windows. White roses blooming along the walkway. Landon is serving 20 years in federal prison. Brielle lost everything. My parents live in a small senior apartment. Donnell visits often. The ocean still roars beneath my balcony. But the fear is gone. And for the first time in my life, this house truly belongs to me. Before you go, let me ask you something. Have you ever been betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect you? Someone who smiled at you while secretly plotting against you? If you have, drop a heart emoji in the comments. You're not alone. And if stories like this matter to you, please like this video, subscribe to Tales by Laura, and turn on notifications, because we tell powerful stories about family, betrayal, resilience, and women who refuse to lose themselves just to keep the peace. Your support helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Sometimes the people who try to take the most from you are the ones who raised you. This story isn't just about a house. It's about boundaries, self-respect, and the courage to walk away from anyone who treats your life like their retirement plan. She didn't lose her family. She lost her chains. And in their place, she gained something far more valuable. Peace. This has been Tales by Laura. where every story proves that even after betrayal, you can still choose yourself,